Hey guys, Tony Melo Properties team. Hope you're all doing well. I've done a video of this building before. I can share that if you guys want. Want to do another quick video just to kind of describe a rent to own, a lease option, how that works. Is not just simply somebody that rents a home that eventually buys a home. There's some additional details, things, considerations that people have to think of. All right, so this home here is 135 Highland Street in Taunton. We just recently renovated it. It's a property that we've owned for a while now. So part of the renovation, the majority of the renovation, at least short term, last few months since November of last year. Obviously the kitchen. So kitchen cabinets, plenty of kitchen cabinets. Countertops, new appliances, fridge, range, microwave, dishwasher, does have a garbage disposal, gigantic islands, just the way we like them, positioned so that you have some decent space between, the sink and the islands, and all the way around. I think it fit nicely the way it did. Overhang on this side, so you can kind of sit here, entertain, serve on that side. As far as other appliances, the hot water heater we also replaced recently. And what we've got is basically, obviously it's a kitchen, living room, bathroom, and then a laundry area. Brand new. Closet, and then upstairs. So as I'm showing you the house, I want to talk a little bit about rent to own, because we're getting a lot of people that are calling that think that they're going to end up getting into the property with just first, last, and security, which is not the case, not how a rent to own or a lease option works. So we just replaced all that. We did a lot of work right here in this area. This has been completely reconfigured. So I'm doing a video right now. You need to relax. Go outside and play, okay? All right. So what we're doing here is we're advertising it two ways. We're advertising it for sale, which we have that MLS that we can do and send. Multiple listing services. It's the listing that shows all the information on what we're trying to sell the property for. And then we've got the rental side of things, which is that rent to own, which has those details, and we can provide that too. All right, so a rent to own. What is a rent to own? I'm sure everyone has heard people complaining about, I was doing a rent to own and they sold it from under me. I was renting it with the idea that I was going to purchase it, and they sold it. If you're in a true rent to own, the people that own the building, the house, cannot sell it from underneath you. And the reason for that is it needs to be documented that you're purchasing the property. In our case, we are going to do a rental agreement, because you are renting short term, and we're going to do a purchase and sales at the same time. Both of them are legal documents that bind the seller to a specific agreement. One rent, one sell. Aiden, you need to go downstairs so that I can finish this. So, with the purchase and sales agreement, that says I'm going to buy this property for this price at this time. When you have that document, the seller of the property cannot sell that property to anyone else, because you've got a document that says, I've tied this property up for this amount of time, because we've all agreed, signed, notarized, that the property is going to be sold to you for that amount of money that you've agreed ahead of time at a certain point in time in the future. a year and a half, 2 years, whatever it is that has been agreed, right? So that is how a rent to own truly works. Some people will do something called an affidavit of memorandum, which is just basically a memo that's recorded at the registry of deeds. So if somebody tries to sell the property and they go to the registry of deeds, which you have to when you do a closing, or most lawyers will do that, that's how it's done these days. They'll go in there and go, oh, what's this memorandum, affidavit of memorandum? And they'll read it and say, oh, somebody's got a claim on this property and this property can't be sold. So it stops it right then and there. We have no problem doing that. If it comes to that, we're okay with doing that. Depending on the cost, we'll have to figure out what, and it can't cost that much to record a memo at the registry of deeds if that makes the prospect, the person that's going to be doing the renting to own, comfortable with the entire situation. So you'll have the rental agreement, you'll have the purchase and sales, and if need be, if we want to do that, the memorandum, affidavit of memorandum that records that information. So that is some of what's required in this case, and in some cases, in most cases, some of the rent counts towards the purchase price. In this case, we're asking for $2,100 per month to rent this place, of which $100 per month goes towards the purchase of the property. So if you're here, for example, 12 months at $100 per month, that's $1,200 that we will credit you at closing. It's all contingent. It's all based on you successfully purchasing the property. You don't get that money if you decide you don't want to buy the place. You don't get that money if you decide you want to leave halfway through. So there's little things that, you have to understand how some of the stuff works. On the rental side, first, last security. That's the deposit for the rental side. Obviously, if you buy the place, the security comes straight back to you, even if it's damaged, quite honestly, because it's your house at some point in time. So if you've done the damages and you buy the house, here you go, have the security back. That's not a problem. Last month is last month. If you pay the last month out of pocket, then obviously the last month comes back to you. It depends on whether or not you use it or don't use it. So that's the rental side, first, last security. On the purchase side, for a lease option, a rent to own, there is a security deposit. A deposit, just like you're buying a house. You have to put X amount down. That deposit, security deposit, is called a consideration. So in this consideration, this deposit, the intent of it is that if you decide at the time that you're going to buy the property that you do not want to buy the property, and that's why they call it an option, you have the option of not buying it, you can walk away and not buy the property. That's all fine and dandy. However, the person that owns the property wants to sell it. So to get that person to want to get into a situation where they're allowing you to rent the place to buy the place, there has to be some skin in the game for you, the renter, the person that's buying the property. That's the consideration. So the consideration is a non-refundable deposit. If you buy the house, it goes towards the sale of the property. If you do not buy the house, it's liquidated damages. You forfeit that money in lieu of buying the property. So, remember, ultimately, the person that's getting themselves into, the seller that's getting themselves into this rent-to-own, this lease option, ultimately wants to sell the property. In our case, we're advertising it both ways, for sale and for rent-to-own. Reason is, we prefer to sell it without even doing the rent-to-own. So that is more or less how a rent-to-own works. Sometimes a portion of the rent goes towards the purchase price. In our case, it's $100 per month. And the consideration. Consideration is absolutely critical and mandatory. And I'll tell you why again. With a pure rental, not a rent-to-own, just a rental, in Massachusetts, you're allowed to collect a full first, a full last, and a full security. In this case, if we're charging $2,100 a month, that comes out to $6,300 in first, last, and security. All right? So we just put in almost $40,000 in this property. If we collect $6,000, and the person that comes in here after a month, 2 months, 3 months, a year, destroys this place, destroys the cabinets that you saw down there, destroys the flooring, destroys walls, the 40 some odd thousand dollars that we put into this place, that $6,000 does not compensate at all what the amount of money and time and effort and expense and headache that we put into this property. So that is why we need that consideration, is so that there's skin in the game for you as the person getting yourself into this scenario, so that it weeds out the people that have bad intentions, that may not be totally serious about doing this transaction, this rent to own, this buying this property at some point in time, which we would prefer to avoid those folks altogether. If you got any questions, let me know. That is more or less how a rent to own works. I'm obviously, not scripting any of this stuff. I'm just kind of just talking and blabbing away on, how it works. And how it relates to this particular property. So, important to remember, $100 per month of the rent that we collect for the time that you're here. That gets credited to the purchase price. Basically, we cut a check at closing. So once you've signed everything and the house is officially yours, it's recorded, we cut a check, we hand it to you right then and there. It's a credit at closing. The consideration is a non-refundable deposit that counts towards the purchase price. So does obviously the credit, this $100 per month, if you want to use it that way. We don't restrict how you use any of that money. All at closing, all if it's successful. And there's risk on both sides, both the seller side and the buyer side. So if a year from now, for example, you lose your job, well, you might not be able to buy the house, because if you've lost your job, you might not be able to rent it either. Obviously, you have now a situation where you can't pay for it, which, the banks are going to have a problem with. We're going to have a problem with, because you can't pay the rent that, we're requiring. You want to show me the business card? Is that what you want to do? Aiden, my little son, is kind of getting bored. All right, so that is how it's done. And there's probably more stuff that I should be mentioning that I'm not. Another thing that we should mention is part of the requirement on the front end when we're reviewing a prospect will be to get you over to a lender, and we know a few because we're real estate agents. We're looking for that lender to give us an opinion on your situation, as far as if we were to start helping you today, credit, down payment, whatever it is that you need to become qualified to buy a property, what would that lender's opinion be as far as time that is required for you to become a successful buyer? Is it a year? Is it a year and a half? Do you need 2 years? That's pretty much where our limit is going to be, is 2 years. If the lender comes back and says, Tony, these people just had a bankruptcy and they have bankruptcies every 7 years, and if we help them, it's going to take 7 years from now, it's going to take 20 years from now, we're not interested in that. We want to sell this property. We're willing to hold on to it and work with people for a year, year and a half, God forbid, 2 years. So we might get into it. I prefer not to be honest with you. The faster, the better. Like I said, there's probably other things that I should be mentioning that I'm not mentioning that is probably more or less documented, explained on that Word document that I put together, explaining how some of this stuff works, what's included, what's not included, what's required, what's not required. So if you're interested in, or even just curious in a rent-to-own, a lease option, leasing with an option to buy, give me a call, send me an email, text me. I will get you that information. If it seems like something that works for you, that you're interested in, we'll continue discussing it and we'll go from there. So, Tony Melo, Melo Properties team, 508-369-9755. That's my cell phone. You can text there. Excuse me. 508-369-9755. As far as email, info, INFO, the symbol at, an aspirand, Melo, MELO, properties, more than one.com. Info at Melo, MELO, properties.com. Info meloproperties.com. Send me an email, send me a text message, ask me more questions. I'll send you this video or the other information that we have that kind of describes and documents. And if it doesn't, if you have questions that aren't answered with any of the things that we send you, then we can talk it out. All right. 135 Highland Street, Taunton, Mass. Both for sale and rent to own. Tony Melo, Melo Properties team, 508-369-9755. Thank you, and have a great day.